Welcome back to Major Intonio's presentation of Early Kings of Norway by Thomas Carlyle. Chapter 4, Harald Greyfell and Brothers.
Eric's sons, 4 or 5 of them, with a Harald at the top, now at once got Norway in hand, all of it but Trondheim, as king and underkings, and made a severe time of it for those who had been or seemed to be their enemies. Excellent Jarl Sigurd, always so useful to HAKON and his country, was killed by them, and they came to repent that before very long. The slain Sigurd left a son, HAKON, as Jarl, who became famous in the northern world by and by. This HAKON, and him only, would the Trondheimers accept as sovereign. "Death to him, then," said the sons of Eric, but only in secret, till they had got their hands free and were ready, which was not yet for some years. Nay, HAKON, when actually attacked, made good resistance, and threatened to cause trouble. Nor did he by any means get his death from these sons of Eric at this time, or till long afterwards at all, from one of their kin, as it chanced. On the contrary, he fled to Denmark now, and by managed to come back, to their cost. Among their other chief victims were 2 cousins of their own, Tryggve and Gudrod, who had been honest underkings to the late head king, HAKON the Good, but were now become suspect, and had to fight for their lives, and lose them in a tragic manner. Tryggve had a son, whom we shall hear of. Gudrod, son of worthy Bjorn the chapman, was grandfather of Saint Olaf, whom all men have heard of, who has a church in Southwark even, and another in Old Jewry to this hour. In all these violences, Gunhild, widow of the late King Eric, was understood to have a principal hand. She had come back to Norway with her sons, and naturally passed for the secret adviser and maternal president in whatever of violence went on, always reckoned a fell, vehement, relentless personage where her own interests were concerned. Probably as things settled, her influence on affairs grew less. At least one hopes so, and, in the sagas, hears less and less of her, and before long, nothing. Harald, the head king in this Eric fraternity, does not seem to have been a bad man, the contrary indeed, but his position was untowardly, full of difficulty and contradictions. Whatever Harald could accomplish for behoof of Christianity or real benefit to Norway in these cross circumstances, he seems to have done in a modest and honest manner. He got the name of Greyfell from his people on a very trivial account, but seemingly with perfect good humor on their part. Some Iceland trader had brought a cargo of furs to Trondheim, Lad, for sale. Sale being slacker than the Icelander wished, he presented a chosen specimen, cloak, doublet, or whatever it was, to Harald, who wore it with acceptance in public, and rapidly brought disposal of the Icelander's stock and the surname of Greyfell to himself. His underkings and he were certainly not popular, though I almost think Greyfell himself, in absence of his mother and the underkings, might have been so. But here they all were, and had wrought great trouble in Norway. "Too many of them," said everybody, "too many of these courts and court people, eating up any substance that there is." For the seasons withal, 2 or 3 of them in succession were bad for grass, much more for grain, no herring came either. Very cleanness of teeth was like to come in Eyvind Skaldaspiller's opinion. This scarcity became at last their share of the great famine of AD 975, which desolated Western Europe, see the poem in the Saxon Chronicle. And all this by Eyvind Skaldaspiller, and the heathen Norse in general, was ascribed to anger of the heathen gods. Discontent in Norway, and especially in Eyvind Skaldaspiller, seems to have been very great. Whereupon exile HAKON, Jarl Sigurd's son, besteers himself in Denmark, backed by old King Bluetooth, and begins invading and encroaching in a miscellaneous way, especially intriguing and contriving plots all round him. An unfathomably cunning kind of fellow, as well as an audacious and strong-handed. Intriguing in Trondheim, where he gets the underking, Greyfell's brother, fallen upon and murdered. Intriguing with Gold Harald, a distinguished cousin or nephew of King Bluetooth's, who had done fine Viking work, and gained such wealth that he got the epithet of Gold, and who now was infinitely desirous of a share in Bluetooth's kingdom as the proper finish to these sea rovings. He even ventured one day to make publicly a distinct proposal that way to King Harald Bluetooth himself, who flew into thunder and lightning at the mere mention of it, so that none durst speak to him for several days afterwards. Of both these Haralds, HAKON was confidential friend, and needed all his skill to walk without immediate annihilation between such a pair of dragons, and work out Norway for himself withal. In the end, he found he must take solidly to Bluetooth's side of the question, and that they too must provide a recipe for gold. Harald and Norway both at once. "It is as much as your life is worth to speak again of sharing this Danish kingdom," said HAKON very privately to Gold Harald. "But could not you, my golden friend, be content with Norway for a kingdom, if one helped you to it?" "That could I well," answered Harald. "Then keep me those 9 warships you have just been rigging for a new Viking cruise. Have these in readiness when I lift my finger." That was the recipe contrived for Gold Harald. Recipe for King Greyfell goes into the same vial and is also ready. Hitherto the HAKON Bluetooth disturbances in Norway had amounted to but little. King Greyfell, a very active and valiant man, has constantly, without much difficulty, repelled these sporadic bits of troubles. But Greyfell, all the same, would willingly have peace with dangerous old Bluetooth, ever anxious to get his clutches over Norway on any terms, if peace with him could be had. Bluetooth, too, professes every willingness. In Vigils Greyfell, he and HAKON do. To have a friendly meeting on the Danish borders, and not only settle all these quarrels, but generously settle Greyfell in certain fiefs which he claimed in Denmark itself, and so swear everlasting friendship. Greyfell joyfully complies, punctually appears at the appointed day in Limfjord Sound, the appointed place. Whereupon HAKON gives signal to Gold Harald. "To Limfjord with these 9 ships of yours, swift." Gold Harald flies to Limfjord with his ships, challenges King Harald Greyfell to land and fight, which the undaunted Greyfell, though so far outnumbered, does, and fighting his very best, perishes there, he and almost all his people. Which done, Jarl HAKON, who is in readiness, attacks Gold Harald, the victorious but the wearied, easily beats Gold Harald, takes him prisoner, and instantly hangs and ends him, to the huge joy of King Bluetooth and HAKON, who now make instant voyage to Norway, drive all the brother underkings into rapid flight to the Orkneys, to any readiest shelter. And so, under the patronage of Bluetooth, HAKON, with the title of JARL, becomes ruler of Norway. This foul treachery done on the brave and honest Harald Greyfell is by some dated about AD 969, by Munch 965 by others, computing out of Snorro only, AD 975. For there is always an uncertainty in these Icelandic dates. Say rather, rare and rude attempts at dating, without even an AD or other fixed year 1 to go upon in Iceland, though seldom, I think, so large a discrepancy as here.
This concludes today's reading of Early Kings of Norway, by Thomas Carlyle. Join us also the day after tomorrow for the subsequent part. Subscribe to Major Intonio's channel. Thank you for listening, and so long.